pursuit of joy. It's a
Absolutely.
beautiful thing. We should pursue
Absolutely.
joy. The work we do is really meaningful as physicians, but can you do some of that meaningful work in a right dose where that toxicity doesn't like break your heart too much and you could have joy?
I'm not on somebody else's path. I'm just trying to be what's truest in this moment. And now what? And now what? And now what? And let that be a living adventure. Because
Yeah.
you don't get to know the end. You only get to know the part you're in and the part you've been.
Like excitement takes a lot of work. Excitement is very fleeting. Happiness can also be very fleeting because they're momentary. But serenity and peace, they don't take as much energetic energy, but you can just feel them for long periods of time. And you can meditate in them, and then you just feel so good. And it's very restorative.
You're listening to Solving for Joy. I'm your host, Dr. Chrissy Ott, a multi-boarded integrative physician and professional certified life and career coach. This podcast is about joy, what it means, how we find it, and the creative ways people are solving for it in their own lives. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Solving for Joy podcast. I am joined today by my radiant sister friend, Dr. Shideh Shafie. If you know Shideh, then you are already excited for this episode. Dr. Shafie is an assistant professor of emergency medicine at Brown University's Warren Alpert School of Medicine. She works at the Providence Community Health Center, serving a quarter of the city's most vulnerable populations. And she runs her own performance coaching practice, where she uses her experience in emergency medicine and operations to inform her unique perspective to help busy professionals build lives that allow them to thrive in both personal and professional spheres. I love that so much. So I am excited to share with you Shideh's special brand of elegant badassery. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff related to joy today, but I'm especially excited to share with you that she is a co-host of the Physician Coaching Summit this year. And we're going to center a lot of our talk on a practice that Shideh has developed called High Vibe Sundays. So I cannot wait to get into it. Friend, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you. So I have been enjoying this theme of starting our conversation off with asking about a tiny recent joy. So tell me something that recently brought you joy, big or small.
This is like such a minuscule thing, but it made me so proud of myself. I do some real estate work, and one of the tenants texted me and said, "Oh, one of our refrigerator light is not working." He also said that my garbage disposal is not working. And this person's actually a physician, so I was like, "Oh God, he's going to be at work all day. It's probably his breaker that is not working, and then all of his food is going to go." And it's like, "Oh, is it okay if I like run over and just like make sure that it's not the breaker that's out, and then all your food is going to go rotten?" So he's like, "Sure." So I go over there, I check the breakers on it, and I have now so good at this stuff. I reset the garbage disposal so it was working, and I was like, "Oh, it's just the fridge light that's on." And I knew how to order a fridge light and buy a new one and put it in. And I was like, it's just like so satisfying. This problem that in the past I would have called somebody in to come and fix it, and it's just like it's tedious, right? But now I just like know how to fix those things, and I have built that knowledge over time. So it's just like really fun and satisfying. It was like
I
very
love
difficult for
that.
me and satisfying, especially when I switched the light bulb. Like it's such a small thing, but it brought me a lot of joy. Well, to treat tenants well.
Yes. It's self-sufficiency. It's aligned with your values. Absolutely. Congratulations. And also on like just enjoying that it was a joy, right? The awareness to name it. That's fun. Mine is that we just danced to Chapel Roan before we started and shifted energy, and just I had a lot of joy in the last 3 minutes just from dancing around with my friend Shideh.
I also enjoyed that. I love Chapel Run.
The first time we actually ever met, you were doing a like break the ice situation at the Physician Coaching Summit 3.5 years ago. And we started off with a dance.
Yeah. Dancing is such a powerful way to shift energy, and it's so easy. My clients are people who have really high pressure jobs. That's like kind of my brand. It's like, it's okay to have a lot of pressure in your life. Like, let's figure out what to do with it. Like, and I think dancing is just such an easy place to discharge it. And it doesn't take that much time, like, which I love, and it's
so true.
And it's very effective for the physiology of stress too, because it releases cortisol, adrenaline, but it also brings up a lot more joy. And so it's just like a very, very easy way to do it.
Totally. It's efficient and enjoyable.
Yeah. And you put pods in, You dance for 3 minutes, it's done. And like it also touches your creative centers. There's like a lot of really good beneficial things about dancing.
I mean, yes, I love that we're nerding out about this. It's like your own silent disco. And when you're moving your body organically without a planned way or a technique or a way that you can really self-criticize, you're experiencing freedom physically and emotionally. You're actually rewiring your brain, you're serving up new neural pathways. And we know that movement is actually much more effective on a from neuro to muscular when it's something we enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean, I
love
will tell
that.
you, I have a keynote coming up a week from today. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas. It's like a lot of people. It's a big room, an audience that I only know very few members of that audience. And so it's like, a little anxiety. I've already planned my day. I'm going to the Orange Theory, which I rarely go to Orange Theory, but it is fun. So I know I'm going to have like anxiety, just natural anxiety of talking in front of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that early in the morning. Then I'm getting a blowout, which I like. I feel like I can take over the world when my hair is blown out. I'm like, oh, do you need me to figure out any complex problem? Because I can, because I have this amazing hair. Just like gives me massive confidence. And then I have a plan to like go be in my room and like I have a song that I want to dance to right before. Like that like the chemistry just needs to be dealt with. And so yeah, so it's in my self-care plan or whatever you want to call that. I mean, I wouldn't even call it self-care. I feel like it's a strategic plan to like show up and deliver a talk that with like the highest best energy and fantastic hair, which both
Yes.
things go for me together.
And strategic plan is Shideh's brand. Strategic plan for your life. So smart.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
So fun. So dancing's got to be part of it.
So I love the collection of things that make up you and getting to unwrap all the layers, especially as we've gotten closer over this planning time for PCS. One of the things that came out in our conversations naturally was a bit about High Vibe Sundays. So I just would love to get the backstory and learn a little bit about what that can look like. And my underlying mission is to help more of us come out of the closet with our spiritual side, and recognize that it's part of our holism, that actually being a highly rational, high performing adult in the professional world does not need to imply that we don't have organic, spiritual, adventurous side at the same time. I love integration. So can
Yeah.
you tell me a little bit
And
about
they're
how you
not
got into?
opposing.
They're not at all opposing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there is a fellow parent at our school. His name is Damien. He's a parent of children that are not in my children's class. And I'm like, my kids go to the school that has this area called the Commons area where, and there's also bridge traffic. So there's if you're from Rhode Island, you know that bridges are a big deal in Rhode Island because no one likes to drive over them because you can always get stuck in traffic. Well, one of the bridges, the main bridge going to my kids' school from where we live, like had some kind of problem with it recently that was like a big deal. And so for the last 2.5, 3 years, it's been under construction, which means there's a lot of traffic. How this
Okay.
all comes into this space is that what the school did, there was already that like coffee in the commons and people would hang out, but not so many people. But then now it's a lot easier to wait till, if you have the flexibility to wait till 9 or 9:30 to head back over the bridge. So a lot of people come and do work in that space. There's like, they set up spaces where you can go be by yourself and do work, but there's also like lots of tables where you can use the Wi-Fi, and there's coffee and tea. And so people just start talking to each other. And Damien and I had like spent a large portion of like the last 2 years just like talking at random times at this and like we have no kids overlapping, like there's none. We just start talking about different things, and he actually does coaching also, and he does coaching for men, and it's like really interesting, and women, but he does like this rewilding program for men, and very much tied to the ocean. He's an ocean conservationist and is like an incredible human. So we just more and more talked about non-dualism. This like, and non-dualism is something that's of like the mainstream faiths that you think about when they think about non-dualism. I think a lot about Sikhism. Sikhi is a very obvious non-dualistic, but also when you think about like the teachings of Martha Beck or any of these sort of like thought leaders, and that's even Brooke Castillo. A lot of it is non-dualism. It's this idea of that there. or like the conscious leadership framework. A lot of that is non-dualistic framework. They like the start of their book is all about that. But it's this concept that when we have the energy of life or the source life, and you also see it in the more mainstream religions too, like Christianity, Kabbalah, and Judaism, like the more mystic versions where they believe in this concept that like you and God, source, energy of life, whatever you want to call it, universe, whatever you want to call it, under many of those different names. I know God is an inflammatory word for a lot of people, but that you're not separate, and that when you separate the and that non-separation is sort of this concept of non-dualism. It's not, and it's something that runs through all of us. And so we just would talk about how we felt like we needed a space for that to be appreciated and to get into that consciousness, which is this consciousness of that is sort of, when we talk about watcher consciousness, you're in that consciousness, knowing that you may not even be aware of it, but that you're separating yourself from your thoughts, your body, your physical and mental, that there's this like deeper layer that's inside that's core and runs through all things. And so we both believe in that. And you hear about it in like Michael Singer's work, Gary Sukoff's work, like any of these like spiritual teachers, Joe Dispenza, like all of them are teaching about connecting to that space. And it's kind of a space of infinite power. Kabbalists certainly teach that. So many people, Sufis, all the things. And so we were like, how can we just create a space where people experience this more? So we just decided to start this experiment. So once a month on a Sunday, we host where we just like event where people gather. We eat a vegetarian meal together, but that's actually done after we take some time with. He's very good at breath work. He's an expert breath work leader, so he does some breath work, and then normally I'll guide people through something. Like the last one, we just walked through the back gardens, like very consciously in silence, and just noticing what comes up and just connecting to that consciousness. And then we share a meal together. It's like there's no objective, there's no anything. It's just reaching that space. Being in that space together. And that when we do that, we all raise our vibration into that space. And there's a lot of thoughts about vibrational energy and how our emotions, like I think we both went to life coach school. They teach that vibrations, that all emotions are a vibration going through your body. But what that looks like sort of from the spiritual realm is that there's different levels of vibration, and the lower level vibrations, they're not about they're bad or good. It's more that lower level vibrations are the vibrations of survival, fear, shame, jealousy. These are things that we need for survival. But as we evolve and have more safety in our lives and feel better, we can actually kind of move out of that. And you can go to things like the highest vibrations are like peace, like feeling incredible peace over your body. And as you get higher, just like connected to that higher source of all energy. And the gateway drug into that space is actually gratitude, because gratitude is a very conscious sort of like you can get your brain into that space. But once you open to that, then you can open to sort of these higher things like tranquility, serenity, peace, these like very enjoyable, low energy consuming, right? Like excitement, for example, takes a lot of work. Like excitement takes, that's why it's so fleeting. Excitement is very fleeting. Happiness can also be very fleeting because they're momentary. But serenity and peace, they don't take as much energetic energy, but you can just feel them for long periods of time. And you can meditate in them for people meditate in them for hours. And then you just feel so good. And it's very restorative. So if we can get people to that space for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, once a week, once a month, actually, like it's such a beautiful thing. And there's also, I think, a lot of power. And I know Damien also would agree with me to do that in community, because it also allows people who are at a lower energetic level to rise up. It's like a very, we believe in the concept of transference and countertransference. And that co-regulation is just so beautiful. So I love that. And it's a really nice practice, and it has no intention other than just to be there as a space where people can be in that space.
Thank you for sharing the backstory. I love that it started in like organic co-working at your kids' school. That's amazing. It feels very like fated in that way. And yeah, thinking about non-separateness and non-duality, is the work of an entire lifetime, because our brains are, they're creatures of making meaning out of contrast so much of the time. And so training the brain to observe that there is contrast and non-separateness simultaneously is really a bit of a hat trick. It's like the metacognitive patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time, or doing something else that requires distinct coordination. My teacher, whose name is Jennifer Wellwood and is an amazing resource, teaches from a concept of Shaivism and non-dualism, and studied yogic and Tibetan traditions for many years, and would point out quickly that non-separateness is not the same as sameness, right? We haven't reduced everything to thick, gray, bland matter. In fact, there is great beauty in appreciating the unique difference and distinctness of each thing, even as non-separateness exists at the same time.
Definitely.
That is a source of great joy to me, and I think relevant to solving for joy, because when we do train our brains to hold some awareness for non-separateness and yet honor the beauty in our distinctness, there's a lasting pleasure available.
Totally. I actually would go even further about the sameness concept, is that sameness is a lot of the source of our suffering, especially, for physicians, it is an incredible source of suffering. We live in there's like a very distinct profile of what a physician should look like or should be like. A good physician, especially what a good doctor should be like. And no one actually knows the real meaning, but everyone knows that they're not it. They're not measuring up to it. It's very interesting to me. And so the idea that we should all be the same, I think, is a source of incredible suffering. And yet we may not be the same, but we have the same source of energy running through us, that we all are sort of connected, is different than being the same, which it's an interesting thing, because I think the desire to be the same as everybody else, even if they're doing something that you don't want to be doing, is just like, it's an interesting source of suffering that comes up often in a lot of my coaching conversations, and certainly a lot with physicians specifically, because I think there's a very specific way they think they should be, but they're not even sure exactly what that is, but they know that they're not it. And it's so funny, because the part that is the same is that so many physicians feel that way. So just an interesting observation.
I'm resonating with that deeply. Yeah. When you named Martha Beck and others, it makes me think, like when we have a core universal truth like non-dualism, it's something that people spend their entire lives trying to describe. It is like so many fingers pointing at the moon. It is wordless. It's beyond words. And yet we will spend our entire lives serving that concept, or trying to describe it, or connect to it, or help others connect to it. And it made me think all the way, you said Gary Zukav in there. And I read Seed of the Soul in 1998 or 99, one of his early books. And it was one of the books that really changed things. That and The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman was like a high school age read for me, that also brought online the thoughts about, oh, we can do things on purpose. Oh, mindfulness. I'm not just a passenger in my life. I can actually decide to be deeply present and an agent in it, even if it deviates from the paths that have been laid out before me. We can do things on purpose. Oh, mindfulness. I'm not just a passenger in my life. I can actually decide to be deeply present and an agent in it, even if it deviates from the paths that have been laid out before me. So Gary Zukav, Martha Beck, Greg Braden. Do you know Greg Braden?
I don't.
Dead Sea Scrolls is one of his books, 0 Point. But the one that goes way back is Walking Between the Worlds. And he brings this, or like a version, it's a very dense read, honestly, or it was at the time for me, about non-dualism. Even this story that, our Western civilization understanding of Lucifer as this, bad guy villain. Lucifer actually means light bringer. And the contrast was actually essential in order for us to have a experience of this vibration that's slowed down, that's physical. I mean, it gets very esoteric and cosmic very quickly, but it is a way that the contrast serves the experience of understanding, of returning to non-dualism as we have to like wade through the apparent duality of this particular existence and world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like the Kabbalists will also, on a similar vein, they teach that our job in this world is we come into this vessel, which is our body and our life, that is meant to evolve our soul. That's like the role of living, is to evolve our soul. And that the evolution of our soul comes through getting closer to living like the creator, but it is the painful moments that are what allows for that evolution to occur. It is the challenges, and these are the moments in which the creator is giving us an opportunity to get closer to living that way, which is like an interesting way to think about the same thing as like this concept of what is bad or not good is just like an evolution of self. It's a way to let in more light. And in fact, one way to think about light, which is a different way, is when we think of darkness, we often think it's the absence of light. But a Kabbalist might tell you that, I'm not a Kabbalist, like I'm not a professional, but I have learned a lot about Kabbalah, and it's not an absence of light, but it's actually there's so much light that your vessel cannot hold it. You can't receive it, so you need to expand your vessel. So it's not that there's too much. And like an example that is given is like if you think about a cup and you're pouring water into it, it's not that you're pouring in what would be darkness is when the water's flowing. It's chaotic, right? It becomes chaotic when water overflows, but it's not because there's too much water. It's because the vessel in which you're holding the water is not big enough. So the chaos is more about, and so that darkness is that you haven't expanded your capacity to receive that light, which I thought it's just a very different way of thinking about darkness from the world.
Shideh, you pointed out right away when you were describing High Vibe Sundays how important it was for you to do this in community. I can only imagine like how different it is to take a solo retreat day. I mean, that could be high vibes too, but having this experience of being in community and intentionally connecting with source and then sharing a meal, it reminds me of how important it is for us to gather in community as physician coaches and what it means to us to ground in community as people who are nodes of space holding all throughout our professional identities and lives. What is that like for you?
So when I think about that, I think one thing that's really similar about like thinking about like connecting to source, it's kind of like a weird thing to do. Like, let's be honest, like people don't like, not everyone's going and doing it, right? Especially in that way, right? So like a lot of people go to church and they go to mass, or I'm in Rhode Island, so everyone's Catholic, everybody goes to mass, right? So they do that. That it feels safe, right? It feels good to do it with other people because as primates, we are completely wired for connection, right? We know that primates, when they are in danger, they don't run to a safe space, they run to another safe primate. That's very different than other animals, right? You open a door and there's a cat, it runs and hides under a chair. A baby monkey would run to another baby monkey, or maybe a mommy monkey. I don't know, sometimes a bigger monkey. But so we feel most safe in community. And so whenever you're choosing to do something that's like a little bit different than what most people are doing, it's a little isolating and scary to do it on your own. And we get that second guess doubting of ourselves. Like, is this really it? And being a physician and deciding to go into coaching, I mean, there's a lot of like people who think that you've lost your mind. What are you doing? Are you throwing away your career? Are you joining a cult? That's a question, right? I think there's some, like, somebody was really upset the other day because someone had said, oh, physician coaching is a cult. Okay, like, except for, I mean, you can think that, but when you're a coach, you're just like, oh my God, is that what everybody thinks about me? So it's really important to create evidence of like, oh no, there's other people doing this. I'm not alone, right? So that's one huge core thing of community. And it's just also so nourishing to have friends and people that you can call on when things are tough and hard. Like I get texts from all kinds of coaches that like I've met in different parts. So I'm like, like they're facing something in their life and they just need a little love and a support from someone that they know understands the framework in which they're choosing to live their life. And that's super
Mhm.
helpful, right? Like to have people like that. Of course, it's helpful for like the business, like, I get lots of referrals from these places because people, when they know you, they're like, oh, this person will take really good care of you, right? Like when I think about like my own friends who need coaching, like I don't necessarily coach, you can coach your own friends to some extent, but sometimes people need to talk about things that maybe they don't want to bring up with you or whatever it is. Like having friends that I like trust and value from the coaching world, I'm like, oh, go to them, right? Like that's a huge thing. It's such a wonderful space to be connected in, but it's also really important to notice that like this thing that seems crazy or otherworldly or whatever to a lot of people, that there's a huge group of people that are doing this work that like are lovely, that you can connect to and that you can stay connected to even afterwards, so that you know that like what you're doing is not crazy, right? And like, oh, like, and it can be hard to find in your local community because communities are small and this is a fairly new sort of space.
I like that aspect of it. It's not a thought that I'd actually had about, you know, connecting to evidence that your choice to work in the realm of physician coaching is, so different than the typical physician path. That having evidence of other people doing this is really important, and yet it's something I really deeply connect to, having experienced not only people, but people who are fucking smart, really brave, very sincere, and increasingly integrated, where their spiritual work and identity is touching their professional work and identity, just touching their social work and identity, um, and their family life and identity. I think
Yeah,
about, somebody who's popping into my mind right now is Sharon Stein. She's an absolutely badass colorectal surgeon, and a brilliant physician coach. And talk about cults. Her talk last year was about the indoctrination of physicians, how it's kind of like a gang. You get initiated on the way in, it's like blood in, blood out. If you want to leave and do something else, you are likely to feel the wrath of judgment and rejection from your choice to separate from the herd and do this slightly newer, different thing. You know, used to be it would be a non-evidence based thing, but we actually have evidence now that super clearly supports efficacy of physician coaching when it comes to burnout and imposter syndrome and occupational fulfillment,
hmm,
etc. I've really benefited indeed from connecting to people like you and so many others. That reminds me that this is not a crazy choice. If it feels right in your body, it is a legitimate choice to move forward with.
totally. I also think it's really helpful to see how other people are doing things too. It's like I find that really fun. I think in the physician coaching world, there's certain coaches that are like more famous and we're like, oh, that's the only way to do a coaching business. And like everyone does it so differently. And when you start knowing more coaches, you start
Mhm.
knowing the different options. So like if you're a beginner coach or in the first few years of coaching, like I'm like, oh, this is a cool option. I could do this. I could do that. Like I ran 2 retreats this last year because I was like, well, I know someone else who did this. And so like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll try it and they'll help me troubleshoot it if there's any issues. And like you get to try on like what do I want to spend my time doing? How do I want what feels right for me? And some of it is helpful to see like other people's ways of doing it. Some people only have group coaching programs. Some people only do one-on-one. Some people do a mixture. Some people you get to like and being aware of the many different ways to do something. One, it allows you to experience with yourself, but then you also like learn from their experience too, right? So it's both. You feel a little bit more freer in your own experimentation and a little bit more like you have a little bit more knowledge of the different ways to do things.
That is so true. I wouldn't have this podcast today if I hadn't had the experience and then what is implicit permission to do this, based on somebody modeling it at the Physician Coaching Summit. That this is how you do a podcast. It's actually step A, step B, step C. It's not that hard. You can do it. Go. And I was like, oh, I think maybe that sounds really fun to me. And 10 months later, this was released. I find those moments absolutely life changing. And then I like that leads to a bunch of conversations I would never have had the opportunity to have sharing them in the world, and then who knows how they ripple out, you know? The
Mhm.
experience of seeing different paths modeled and then going, "Oh, I could try that. I could iterate that." I have this analogy popping in my mind that's like, it's like building a home, you know? Some of us would be really happy living in a comfortable apartment in a high rise, and some of us want a little cottage craftsman house, and some of us would like a big elaborate house in the suburbs or in the country. I mean, everybody has a different style of what they actually want to create. And so
Mhm.
acknowledging all of these are part of the spectrum and not in a better than, worse than scale, just in a community that's not a monoculture. It's like some of us
Yeah.
coach inside institutions, some of us are entrepreneurs, some of us are trying to do this with about 10% of our time, some of us have stopped practicing traditional medicine altogether. And just like non dualism, they don't oppose one another, they coexist quite beautifully.
Totally. And you get to choose. Um, and that's the beauty of it. You get to choose once and then you get to choose again and again and again until you like it. And it can change at different times, right? Like how much time you want to spend coaching might change throughout different seasons of your life. Like I, protect myself from having too many coaching clients and I started a wait list because I have other things that I have I don't have to do, I want to do, but sometimes I feel like I have to do them too, just so you know. It's not just my family life, it's like other sources of revenue and businesses that I attend to, and I like doing that. And at this moment of time, those need more of my attention. And I really like go all in with my clients. Like I like the one-to-one relationship a lot, and I really like getting to know them and really knowing their all the layers of it. And so I want to give them that experience. So I don't want to do it in a different way. Like I understand and I have done groups and I like groups, but at this point, this is what seems right. And that, once some of these other systems have been more operationalized, like I plan to increase that capacity, but you get to choose, some of my favorite coaches or people that I've learned the most from, it's not like what they're saying, it's just watching them in the world. And that is also really interesting to watch different people in the world and how they move. And you're like, oh, I can do that too. Like I can allow myself that permission.
Yeah.
Mm.
As you're saying that, I'm feeling like the importance of attending to how much flow is available versus the energy of forcing something, needing a particular outcome out of something. And naming it is helpful to me because I'm like anybody else in a dynamic relationship with my role as a coach. And what I'm called to right now is to actually like put this as a side dish and not try to make it an entree, like to actually bring it into its right size in my life in this season and chapter. Because there are so many things that I am called to do, and overfilling the plate is not always a beneficial answer, you know? Yeah. When I do my locums work and the dose is very, very small, but I get to lavish energy on them, as a provider, as a physician, it feels like, wow, this is so neat. This is so fun. As opposed to being in that grind of like, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? 15 minutes. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Quick decisions, quick labs, quick results, quick discharge, go, 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 go.
Yeah. For me, dosing of medicine is 2 days a week. I love it. It's like I enjoy it. It's fun. I look forward to it. There's no like, ugh, that dread feeling. It's not there. And I love like client work and other work in on the other days.
I'm so grateful
Yep.
for our connection and just like sharing that kind of thing together. And I hope that, for our friends who are listening, that they have a lot of that in their lives. And if you want
Yeah.
more of that, then come to the Physician Coaching Summit, and that is what we are into there. It's
Yes.
like share your experience so that everyone can benefit.
And I want to say this out loud for a lot of physician coaches because I do think this is like one of the things that somehow gets like it's a residue that gets stuck. A thought that gets stuck in a lot of physician coaches' brains is that you are successful as a physician coach if you no longer have to physician or you make the same amount of money in your coaching business as you made with your physician salary. And I would say,
Yep.
I would like you to go beyond that thinking. Like, yes, that could be a marker of success for you if that's what you want. But that does not it does not mean that that is the only marker of success, and that if you choose to still practice clinically, that somehow you have not made it, or if you've chosen to make less money than you did and then have other things that you're working on or whatever it is, like whatever iteration, like you get to decide what success looks like. Success is a very personal metric, right? And I think like what happens with that metric is that most of us don't have a definition for our own selves of what our own success will look like in a given period or in a given area. And so we look for some kind of external validator, or we just like base it on what somebody else is saying. But because there's no actual metric, you can never be satisfied. You're never full, or you're not, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so
Hungry
you
ghost.
don't even know, you can't even move the mile marker because you don't even know where the mile marker started at, right? Like, so I think that that's a really important thing. I think it's really healthy and important for like, I don't know why I'm going off on this. I'm going to go off on it. Sometimes I go off on things like the fire movement. I find the fire movement so funny because it's like for especially for physicians, let's be financially independent and retire early. And then what are you going to do? Like, what's your plan? And then you get to relax for the rest of your life. But the problem is,
then you become a consumer full time, right?
well, but it's just like, well, there's just this concept of like true happiness we know doesn't come from hedonia. Hedonia, the pursuit of joy.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. We should pursue joy. But a satisfied life comes from eudaimonia and hedonia in a healthy mix, right? Eudaimonia is meaning. The work we do is really meaningful as physicians. And yes, it's true that a lot of hospital systems are really broken, all these things. But can you do some of that meaningful work in a right dose where that toxicity doesn't like break your heart too much, and you could have joy? And I put that out there because I don't think it's an either or. I think it's totally fine to leave clinical medicine, but it's also really beautiful to be able to stay in clinical medicine. I think there's so much messaging for physician coaches specifically that like the success metric is that you have left being a doctor, and I think it's actually like that's not that's not a success metric that I'm looking for. I want to figure out how to still be a doctor for some time in a way that feels like it supports my values and goals, which I am really lucky that the clinical practice I do does still do that for now. And I have real clear ideologies about like when I would leave, what things would make me leave. I know that for myself, where it would no longer serve me to be that. But I think that's an important thing to talk about too. And I think you get to see that more in when you're meeting real coaches, talking to them. You're not just like looking on the internet and making up numbers and thinking how people are doing it and how you're so much less than. I think that's a really important element of being with each other.
Thank you for saying that, all of it. I feel that deeply. There was a period in my trajectory where I thought that leaving clinical medicine was a success, was a key performance indicator of my path as a coach. And I don't believe that at all today. And
Yeah, I would say it's the same.
Reconciling, like, oh yeah, I'm not on somebody else's path. Like we said earlier, like I'm just trying to be what's truest in this moment. And now what? And now what? And now what? And let that be a living adventure. Because you don't get to know the end. You only get to know the part you're in and the part you've been. And in fact, the past actually becomes much clearer with more distance.
It's true. And I like at this point in time, I'm so proud that I found a physician job where I get to do work that I found to be incredibly meaningful, serve a population that I really like serving. That's a difficult population to serve, especially in the current political atmosphere that we live in. And that I get to do it without compromising my ability to mother, to be able to come and do all this other stuff that I do. Like, wow, what an honor. And I like going to work. I will tell you, I work one Saturday a month. Or otherwise only on the weekdays. And like, I told my boss the other day, I was like, I worked 2 Saturdays ago, and I was like, it's like brunch with my besties. Like, I love my colleagues. So it was 4 of us working together. Like, all people I would hang out with outside of the hospital. I really enjoy them. One of them brought like 2 different kinds of coffee cake that she had homemade. And we just like, we see patients. We had such a nice time. We're like, the patients are wonderful. We saw like a bunch of newborns. It's like so nice and so pleasant. And like, it's an enjoyable way to spend a Saturday. And it didn't come with like dread of like being completely exhausted at the end of it, because the workload is sustainable and good. And the work environment is pretty good. Like what a wonderful blessing that is. And it's getting to be rarer and rarer in medicine. I know that, but I feel really happy that I get to be in a space like that.
Mhm. Yeah. May it serve and inspire. I'm so glad too. So glad that you get to be of service in a way that also fills you up.
I think that it's tough for us. A lot of physicians, I think, grieve the moving away from clinical medicine because they chose that work for a reason, right? I am all about financial independence from medical institutions, 100%, because they're not going to take care of you. They are not interested in taking care of you. They are just interested in skimming as much off the top of you as they can. So 100%, that part of the FIRE movement I love. But what would it look like to fire, kind of get the financial independence, but work in a way that you like? So that would be work, W, in a way. W, like, wibble. Wibble. That's the word.
Yeah.
How about
Maybe it's
great and financial independence and then work in a way that you like and that you can be proud of, that continues to bear the meaning that medicine has had for you.
I think that there is a belief that retire equals live how you want. And so maybe it's like financial independence, live how you want
Yeah.
kind of
I mean,
thing.
I am sort of living like a retired person. I do play tennis 2 to 3 times a week, so that might be part of that, but I don't know. But
That's fitting.
can you integrate that into your life?
So good. Shida, I am so grateful for you. Thank you for being my collaborator in planning and holding space for the summit and for being an inspiration to me. And I'm so thankful that you are here and doing all that you do.
Well, I am so thankful to be part of this space, and I'm so excited for the Physician Coaching Summit. It's just always such a restorative time for me. I'm so happy you've taken on this big project, which is a really beautiful, big, like, hug of a project. Like, it's just like, it feels so good. It creates a space of coziness and connection for people who are just all one, like, it's such a wonderful space. And I'm so honored to help you do it, but really thankful that you've taken on the baton, as they say, to lead the way. And I'm so excited for the people who are going to get to come and be part of this because, I mean, Kelsey has a lot of really wonderful things in store for you all. I am privy enough to know some of those things. It's like a space where it feels so different than a conference in that it's not about like running from one thing to the next thing to get the most information, but it's really about being, connecting. The food is good, the atmosphere is good, the pace is like luxurious and delicious and connected. And I'm just so excited for all of the attendees that get to come, especially first time attendees, because I think they will be blown away by knowing that a place like this exists. Because I don't think I've ever been to a conference that I'm like, oh wow, this is really fun. And like, I like the lifestyle medicine conference. I enjoy that a lot. The food is healthy, which I really like, but it's still like a lot of like seminars and like running around. But this is like really about connection and being and talking to each other. And it's not so much about like get all the notes down as fast as possible and like clear it into your brain and go to the next session. It's just like that's not the speed, and it's just really lovely.
Mm, Thank you for that reflection. I'm honored to get to hold space. Thanks to Kathy for creating the space, and thanks to Kathy for passing the baton. And leaving this conversation, what is a way that you're going to solve for joy in the near future, Shida?
I touch joy often. Well, I will tell you that I do have a little bit of anxiety when thinking about speaking in front of 300 to 400 people that I don't know. So I will be having lots of little anxiety dance parties to create a little bit more release and then just coming back to my sort of natural, joyful state.
I know you're going to totally nail it. They're so lucky to have you as a keynote speaker. Thank you, friends, for being with us. And Shida, thanks again for being with me for this conversation today and dealing with what you guys might not know at this point were a bunch of internet hiccups along the way. All right. Much love. Big hugs to you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you again to the fabulous and wonderful Dr. Shideh Shafie. This could not have been more fun, and I love hearing about High Vibe Sundays. Next week, I will be joined by Dr. Mina Julapali, who is a friend and another joyologist on the path. She is a dermatologist and a coach, especially for kids, and is also offering very fascinating clinical hypnosis. So I can't wait to get into it with Dr. Mina next week. If you are a physician coach or a physician aligned with coaching, you are invited to join us at the Physician Coaching Summit. It is in 2 months at Savannah Wellness Resort and Spa in Carefree, Arizona. Please check out details at thephysiciancoachingsummit.com and reach out to me with any questions. We would love to have you there. As always, I'm a doctor, but not your doctor. This podcast is for education and connection only. It is not medical advice. Speak with your own clinician about your specific situation if you need support. As always, thank you to Kelsey Vaughn, our amazing producer and magic maker, and to Sue, my partner in everything, and to you. Thank you for being with us. We're always glad you're here. You're the reason we make this show, and we love spending time with you. May we all continue to find new and high vibe ways to solve for joy. We'll see you next time.